like, God, I'm trying to get on the right path. And it's just like, I need for you to guide me. And I just felt so, I'm getting chills right now. What's up, all our real ones out there? Welcome back to the Relationship Podcast, episode number 7.
Yes, sir.
I'm Asha Steele.
And I'm Devin Steele.
And we're super excited that you guys are tuning in today with us. We also want to apologize for the delay. I had a few people asking, where's episode number 7?
Look, man, I get it, but you got to understand, we had some big things in our family happen last week.
Real big.
I'm talking real big.
I knew one day I would do it real big.
Hey, nice time.
Hey.
Yeah, shout out to my man Nip, reps in peace.
Yes.
But yeah, we had some big news happen in our family last week, which we're going to share with y'all in the future because we want to teach y'all how we were able to do it. But we're back in effect this week.
Okay. And we also want to say congratulations to the winner of our giveaway, Jennifer and her husband.
From Florida.
Yes. And we're so excited for you guys to have a great night out for Valentine's Day. Make sure y'all send us some pictures. Appropriate pictures of y'all dinner and make sure y'all have a great time. And also, you guys, do not get discouraged. You know, this is the first of many giveaways that we're going to be doing. So make sure you stay active on our social media because how are you going to see when we're giving a giveaway if you're not on there? So make sure y'all follow the directions, stay tuned, comment, engage, do all that great stuff so that y'all can be a part of the next giveaway.
Yeah, because we're going to be giving away a lot of stuff. We're not just going to do dinners. We're going to do couples massages, a weekend getaways at hotels. We're going to do vacations.
Okay.
We're going to do everything possible to really promote real love and really try to help couples become closer together. Just to say thank you for everything y'all been able to do in helping this podcast grow.
Exactly. And we also have something really exciting cooking up for you guys.
Oh, yeah. So a lot of y'all been asking us about our heart boxes. In our first episode, What's Love Got to Do with This? We talked about how we utilize a heart box in our relationship to help with our communication because we went through a lot of dark patches in our relationship and in our marriage because we were harboring a lot of the emotions and feelings that we were going through. And one day I was just walking in the store and this heart box caught my eye and I could not stop looking at it for some reason. And I just had this thought in my head, like, what if I buy this heart box and take it home and just use it as a tool for communication in our relationship? Like if you have something on your heart, instead of just harboring it and taking that anger into the next day and never really dealing with it, never sharing those emotions with your partner, write down something on a piece of paper to talk about what you're experiencing, the type of feelings that you have, put it in the heart box, and then every night before you go to bed, talk it over with your partner so that, you know, you're not taking that anger into the next day. And when we put this into our relationship, when we started to use this $10 heart box that I had bought,
that's it.
It saved
us
so much money from the amount of money you would have spent on the divorce.
Exactly.
The amount of heartache that you would have to go through with going through a breakup. Like the $10 was well worth it because it really just took our relationship to the next level and it helped us learn how to communicate better. So what we decided to do was to create our own heart boxes, which we're going to give to y'all for under $10. If you just go to our website, REALationships.podcast.com, and we only have a limited amount of these heart boxes. So if you're an early listener to our podcast, you might want to go to the website right now and get your heart box today. As a bonus, we put into the heart box our 5 steps to deal with conflict resolution in your relationship, because not only do we want y'all to talk about the feelings and emotions that you're experiencing, but we want y'all to be able to talk about it in a productive way. So we added that as a bonus in our hot boxes. So go get it today.
Okay. So that actually leads into today's episode, which is Going the Distance Part 2. Last week, we were talking about being in a long distance relationship and how you guys can remain close. But this week, we're actually talking about how you can be actually in a relationship and in close quarters, but feel distant.
Be distant.
Yeah.
Because we really dealt with that in our relationship. I'll kind of give y'all a background of how we dealt with this. You know, I told y'all before of how Leah was diagnosed with cancer my second year in the NFL when she was 4 years old. And it just really flipped our world upside down. And I didn't really know how to process getting that news from the doctors that, you know, Leah had stage 4 cancer. She only had a 50% chance of, surviving this disease. I didn't really know how to process that. But a couple of weeks after Leah got diagnosed, me and Asha got engaged, and she ended up moving to Cincinnati with me. And although she was out there with me, supporting me, and we were in close proximity, we felt so distant from each other.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I actually felt closer to Asha when she was in Delaware and I was in Cincinnati. But because I was going through so much mentally with Leah having cancer, the struggles I was going through with my career playing in the NFL, I was fighting a lot of demons mentally. And, I really didn't know how to explain what I was going through. I think that, as men, we're not really taught how to express what we're going through. We taught that you have to be that rock of your family, that you can't be that soft individual that sometimes you want to be, but you don't know if it's okay to be it. So I was fighting a lot of things that I was going through internally, and I just isolated myself from everything. And I wasn't taking care of my relationship. I wasn't taking care of my career, and I wasn't taking care of myself. I think like around that time I had gained like 30 pounds.
We both did.
Yeah, like we both did. I remember when we got out of that storm, we looked at some of the old pictures of ourselves and we was like, man, why didn't you tell me that I was starting to look like this? But we didn't really communicate that much. Like, it were weeks where we would go where we wouldn't hug, kiss, we wouldn't do anything because it was just so much going on in our family, and we just didn't know how to communicate with each other.
Yeah, it was very challenging that time. That was like it was the beginning of our relationship pretty much. We had been together for about a year, 2 years.
Right.
And so we were just fairly new and getting to a point in our relationship where we felt good about it. And then our whole world came crashing down. And so when we got engaged, of course, I went to Cincinnati because I didn't want to leave my soon-to-be husband out to deal with all of that by himself. You know what I mean? I didn't feel like it would be right for him to have no family as a support system, no friends. He just was out there with his teammates. And of course they were great supporters, but he didn't have anyone else out there to support him once he came home from being at the stadium and going to practice and stuff like that. So I didn't really feel, it didn't sit too well with me to just have him out there by himself. So of course, me going out there, I thought in my mind that, I'm going to be this savior in a sense that help keep him balanced and, mentally stable of some sort while he was out there. But little did I know that I needed that same balance for myself and didn't have it. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you something that you just said. That you said that when you came out there, you felt like you was going to be that savior.
Right.
And a lot of times I pay attention to a lot of the conversations that go on social media, and a lot of people, the perception is that women have to be that covering, for men, or be that savior. What made you feel like you had to be that? Is it like something that society taught you? Is that just a role that you feel like a woman has? Like, what made you feel like you had to be that savior or that covering?
I mean, just from my upbringing, I feel like just seeing that's kind of what a woman was placed in as her role, as to, the man is the protector of the house, but the woman is the backbone. She's taking care of all that she needs to take care of her so that her man can be that for her. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we have to be just as strong, if not stronger at times, to support our spouse and our children and everyone else. You know what I mean? So I just felt like that. I felt like for some reason, not even knowing that we were going to something so just unknown to us and so like tragic, I had no idea what I was about to get into, but I knew in my head, or at least I thought in my head, that I was going to be able to try to keep him afloat, try to keep him focused, try to make sure that he was out there doing what he needed to do so that although he was away from Leah, it wasn't like in vain. You know what I mean? So that's what I felt like my role was going to be. And I just knew and was determined that I was going to do that. But like I said, once I got out there, I realized very quickly that was not the case. Mm-hmm. And I had no control over his emotions, let alone my emotions, and how we could maneuver to make sure that we were both being productive. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I feel like things started to really crumble, especially for me, because it was just like when you feel like you have something under control and you realize that you don't, and you're completely out of control and you have no control over it, then it kind of breaks you. It breaks your confidence in a sense. It breaks your mentality and how you think and how you process things. And so that's when I started to really fall apart, because it was just like, I can't do anything about this situation. Mm-hmm. I have no control over this situation. I have no control over how I can uplift him in a sense. You know what I mean? A lot of times I was to myself and I started to pray very heavily, because it was just like, whatever I thought I could do, even me bringing my prayers, it sometimes felt like I was broken and trying to pray. Like, I felt like I didn't even know how to pray at times, because it was just like, what exactly am I praying for? What exactly am I trying to change? And I had no clue of where to start or how to maneuver. Mm-hmm. I felt like I didn't really have much of a support system myself a lot of the times. And I know one particular incident that happened that made me feel like we were kind of becoming distant, which kind of, it painted the picture to me. And it was Devin was doing a lot of press and media right around the time when he got back into the season started, and everybody caught wind of the story and everybody wanted to know what was going on. And so he was doing an interview, and one interview in particular, he was asked a question about, him being so much of a support system for Leah, who was there to support him pretty much, right? Yeah. And so his response was his parents, I believe his teammates, coaches, the whole Bengal staff, and then the supporters and the fans. Mm-hmm. And when I heard that, I was just like taken away, because it was like I wasn't mentioned at all. And here I just up and left my life, my family, my friends, my career, everything that I knew before this man, to, be there for him, to be his support system. And he didn't even see me as someone that was there supporting him.
But I don't think I didn't see you as somebody that wasn't supporting me. I think that it was just a lot going on. And it's not even an excuse, because honestly, you should have been the first person that I said, because you were there with me every single day, like every step of the way. Like, a lot of people think they understand what I was going through during that time, because I was doing a lot of interviews and a lot of media. But the only person that truly understood what I was going through during that time was Asha, because it was a lot of dark days. Like, when the cameras turned off and the doors shut in our house, there was a lot of stuff that was going on that I was fighting through mentally to try to cope with, my daughter having stage 4 cancer and being 500 miles away from her. So I just think during that time when all the interviews was happening, there's so much stuff going on in my mind, like, and I having to go through all this, to deal with all this in front of a camera lens, in front of the nation. It was just hard. And I think it's something that slipped my mind. I don't think I know it was something that slipped my mind, but I should have been conscious of doing that, because like you said, I had a lot of people supporting me, right? Mm-hmm. Praying for me, praying for Leah, and there was nobody there for you.
Yeah.
And you were away from your family. You left your career, and it was like they was only focused on the dynamic duo, not knowing that there was somebody behind the scenes that was really carrying the load of everything that we were going through.
But I think a point of that, or what you said, is a lot of people are put in that type of situation where it's like they may be supporting or encouraging someone throughout something and may not feel appreciated.
Right. Yep.
But that person may actually appreciate what you're doing, but it's not being seen the way that you would kind of see. And I'll touch on it a little bit later of the 5 love languages, but you're not receiving what you need from that person at that time. So as you said, like, I was there for you. I was your biggest support system, but I wasn't hearing or seeing that I was that. You know what I mean? So that's where the connection started to crumble a little bit, because we weren't communicating or even on the same level or idea of what it was that he needed was what I was being for him. And I felt like I was lacking. And had we just communicated about that, then we would have understood that we were actually on the same page. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a big thing. Also, to touch on it, like, a lot of people, like you said, was there to support Devin and Leah throughout that time. And so although I had my family members that was there and my friends that was there, it was like they were far away. And a lot of times I didn't even want to bring so much of what I was going through to someone else, because not only did I feel like it was a burden, but I felt like no one actually understood what I was going through. No one was actually in my position.
That's crazy, because that's how I felt. Like, I felt like I didn't really talk about what I was going through with you, because I didn't think that you could really understand what I was going through. Just like trying to juggle this world. Like, I'm now trying to help my daughter. I'm now trying to, help my career last. Like, I'm now trying to be the spokesperson for all the families out there battling cancer. And I just didn't think that anybody understood what I was going through, or I didn't want to be a burden on somebody, like trying to take some of the weight off of me and putting it on you. And I know a lot of people go through that, where we don't understand what we feel like people don't understand what we're going through, but you don't even give them a chance to understand.
And that's big in a relationship, because like you said, we both felt like the key word from that, we both felt like we didn't want to be a burden for someone else or for each other. So we didn't communicate effectively. Whereas if we did, we would understand, like, this is something that we're taking on together. Like, this is a journey that is not, we never experienced it. Neither one of us. You know what I mean? It's completely new to us. And though we're two different individuals and have two different outlooks and aspects and positions within that journey, we're still on that journey together. So we should have stayed focused and making sure that we was keeping each other, aligned and determined to get to where we needed to get to, and supported each other. But instead we were taking two separate paths. You know what I mean? It was like we came to a fork in the road and we both went this way instead of just creating a path together. And so I feel like a lot of people do that because it's just like you said, you have a certain perspective in your mind of how things are going and what you need from a situation. And you feel like you may not be getting that, or can't relate to the person, or they can't relate to you. So instead of that, you take on all of that by yourself and try to maneuver instead of you communicating with your partner. Especially if you're married. Like, we're the Relationship podcast is we're not just talking about married couples. We're talking about couples in general, or people that may be single and want to get into a relationship. But especially when you're married, you're becoming one. You know what I mean? So y'all not working separate. Y'all working together. Y'all are basically one individual that's working towards everything in life together. Whether it's your goals, your career, y'all are working together towards that. And so we lost track of that. And that was the biggest setback for us, is because we started to work as individuals instead of as one.
Because it was like I was just trying to find ways to get through my day. You was finding ways to get through your day, and we wasn't really checking on each other and say, look, how can we help each other get through our days together? I think you touched on a little bit about some of the stuff that you would do to really help you cope with what you were going through during that time. But can you elaborate a little bit more of how you were able to deal with that for, some people out there right now who their significant other may be going through a tough time, like I was going through it. And it may not be, you have a child that's battling cancer or fighting for their life or going through a health issue, but maybe they have a partner that just lost a job, who's switching careers, who's having, financial issues, whatever the case may be. If there's a strain in their relationship, if somebody feels like they're isolated, let's just speak for a woman. What kind of things did you do to help keep yourself going during that time where you felt like I wasn't there to support you?
Well, initially I wasn't there for myself. I was trying to be there so much for Devin and for Leah that I lost myself. And so I had to get back to a place where it was just like, I can't be the support system that I need to be for you and to help you through it and to help Leah through it if I'm not whole myself, if I'm broken. So it was just a matter of getting myself mentally stable and emotionally stable. And for me personally, that was, going to God and praying, because in the beginning, a lot of times I didn't know what I was praying for. I didn't know how to pray. You know what I mean? I felt like my prayers wasn't being answered.
Because we wasn't in church like that. We didn't grow up in church. So we just felt like we just didn't know how to
and we
pray.
had just embarked on our spiritual journey by getting baptized a few months prior.
Yeah.
So it was like we were walking along this spiritual journey, and it was like the ground started to crumble beneath my feet. I felt like, and it was just like, God, I'm trying to get on the right path, and it's just like, I need for you to guide me. And I just felt so, I'm getting chills right now. I'm sorry. I'm really getting chills right now. But I'm just like, I really felt so broken at the time. I don't want to get emotional. And it was just like, I had to pick myself up out of the hole in the ground, like dig myself up with no shovel, no nothing. And it was like, I just only could rely on my faith to get me through, because it felt like a lot of times no one there to support me. And I didn't want to be so much of a burden on you, because I knew you were in a completely different mind state than I was in. You know what I mean? Like, this is your child. She's fighting for her life. You know what I mean? So it was just like, where you was at, I couldn't be a burden to him. I couldn't sit up here and just expect so much from him. And so I feel like when you're in a position, you see that the person that you're with is going through something so tragic, and it doesn't have to be to this level, but if you see somebody going through something that's hurting them, that's breaking them mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever, it's like you can't be that burden to them. You can't add to it, because it's only going to break them more. And so it's just like, I had to get myself in a mental space of understanding that I had to be stronger, and I was stronger, and believe that I was stronger, so that I can pull myself up and be the woman that I know that I could be for him.
Right.
So
did you ever feel like you wanted to give up? And if you did have those moments where you felt like you wanted to give up, what made you keep going?
It was a lot of times that I felt like I wanted to give up. And we had this conversation together, right, and you was like, oh, really? But
yeah, it hurt your boy a little bit, but
it was because it's just like, although I know that I said yes when we got engaged, and I was understanding of that I was going into a situation where I was with a man who had a child, and things were going to be aligned a certain type of way, I was not prepared for that particular situation.
Right.
And unfortunately, when people are diagnosed with illnesses, a lot of times the outcome can be very bad, right? Mm-hmm. It can go one or two ways. So in my mind, I was just playing every scenario out. And I had cancer affect my life personally, as well, with a family member. So I knew
she
how
had a family member battling
my grandma,
cancer while Leah was battling.
Right, my grandma was battling. So I knew to a certain extent what I was about to be up against. And so it was just like, do I really want to put myself in this situation to try to love a man and be there for a man who's not going to be able to love me back and be there for me? And so it was like, I had to really process all of that. And it was like, do I want to be that selfish to just jeopardize who I say yes to, who is my future, who I want to build a life with, because of this hurdle that we can get over? So it was just like, I had to really talk to myself about it. I had to talk to God. I talked to my family member. I talked to my grandma that was battling it as well. And just getting all of the advice from all of them, and getting their prayers, and just letting them telling me, like, you know what, if you're with somebody and this is the man that you want to be with, then you don't leave him when he's down, especially not at this time. Like, you be that woman that you can be. You be that encourager, that supporter. You pick yourself up. Even though it's hard, you know, you may look like crap along the way. You may feel like crap along the way, but you pick yourself up and you hold your man high, because that's what you have to do. Y'all have to balance each other out. When he's low, he needs you to pick him up. When you're low, he's going to be there to pick you up. So I just had to get that reinforcement from my family members and friends just telling me that. And so thankfully I had that support system in my ear. Even though it was from afar, those phone calls or text messages meant a lot, because it was how I got through a lot of the days.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted you to touch on earlier when I asked about the covering, mm-hmm, and feeling like you got to be the savior. I don't believe that's the woman's role, right? I feel like that's the role of both parties in a relationship, mm-hmm, that when one person is going through something, you're their covering. Right. You help them get through it. When the because I believe that we're all either coming out of a storm or going into a storm. So it's only a matter of time before roles reverse and the other person is going through something in their life, and then you have to step up and be that covering. But I just think that in a relationship, man, everybody has to carry the load, right? When one person is low, it's your job to lift them up. And when the roles reverse, it's your turn to lift them up. But I think that's just pretty cool to hear that you was getting some of that advice, especially from your grandma, because she's one person that I felt like knew what I was going through.
Yeah. Yeah, but like I said, even in, like I was saying, our situation is not typical.
Yeah.
Although unfortunately a lot of people are in a similar situation, but this idea of being in a relationship or being in a situation where you're close quarters, y'all live together, y'all are not in a long distance relationship, but y'all feel distance can apply to many things, like we had said. And so I just wanted to make sure that we touch based on that. Like, say, for instance, if you are going through a financial situation and you feel like that's putting a strain on your relationship, or maybe infidelity is putting a strain on your relationship and causing y'all to, lose that closeness, whatever the case may be, like, y'all have to come together and fill the void that's there. And it may be with counseling, it may be with something similar to what we said about with the heart box, just about communicating and not feeling like you can effectively communicate with that person to their face. It may be like hard to communicate. It may be like walking on eggshells. And if y'all say one little thing, then it blows up. Right. So rather doing that, maybe you do go that route to be able to just put that note in there and for them to get back to it when y'all are level headed and talk about it. But this applies to so many different situations where you can be with a person but feel so distant,
Yeah, but I definitely want to touch on like how you helped me during that time, because there may be couples out there where one person in the relationship is going through a tough time and they want to know what should they do if their partner's becoming distant. Right. If their husband lost their job, they lost a parent or somebody, they lost a loved one, if they're having financial difficulties, whatever the case may be. How do you support somebody who's becoming distant? Yeah. So I want to touch on that because I feel like it's important to share with everybody how you helped me during that time. You mentioned a little bit about it earlier when you said that you didn't want to be a burden, as far as you didn't want to expect something from me that I couldn't give. Right. Like, I was going through such a dark time in my life, and I was battling a lot of demons in my head that I could not be the same man that I was before everything happened, before Leah got diagnosed with cancer. And not once did you complain, right? You never came to me like, look, you're shutting down, you're closed off, you're not affectionate with me no more, I need this from you. You was like, I'm going to give him his space. To let him try to figure out what's going on, to process everything that's going on in his life right now. So you didn't expect me to do or be the person I was before Leah was diagnosed, which I think is so crucial, because a lot of times we expect people to be something they can't be at a particular time. So I think that's one thing that you can do. Another thing is, like I said, especially for men, we shut down a lot when it comes to our emotions when we're going through stuff. We try to find ways where we can get through the problem ourselves, to be, Popeye and be as strong as we can and just like fight through our struggles. And like I just touched on a little bit, sometimes people can get annoyed by that and start coming at you about how you're dealing with the situation. When you're yelling at somebody that they're not being open, that they're not being affectionate, that they're not telling you about their problems. But one thing you did, like I said, was you invited that openness by just giving me my space. Like, you invited openness. You didn't demand it. You didn't make me come tell you what I was going through. You was just there, and you let me know that, look, when you're ready to talk about what you're going through, I'm here. Right? I'm here for you. I'm a shoulder that you can lean on, that you can cry on, that you can talk about your problems, and we can work through it together. And because you allowed me to process that, when I was ready to talk about it, you were the first person I came to talk about it, because I knew that you were there for me. And like the third thing you can do is just acts of kindness. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of times when somebody's doing something to us, we try to do the same thing to them.
Right.
Like if I'm becoming distant, you get pissed off and be like, oh, well, I'm gonna be distant too. Mm-hmm. Or he don't want to act the same way. I'm not gonna act the same way. But that's not the way you want to do that, because you have to understand that sometimes when your partner is going through that storm in his life, like I was, you feel lonely. You don't feel a lot of love. Like you just feel isolated. So when you're there doing small acts of kindness, it lets me know, okay, there's somebody out there that cares about what I'm going through. There's somebody out there that loves me. And just getting that little bit of love, getting that little bit of acts of kindness, it gave me that motivation to keep going, because there was somebody out there who was thinking about me, because I felt like I was giving everything to Leah. I wasn't taking care of myself. I felt like I was all alone a lot of the time. But by doing those little acts of kindness, by whether it was like cooking me breakfast or just sending me a note, sending me a text, encouraging me, those small things, like, man, it meant the world. So you just want to try to do as many acts of kindness as possible. And if you follow those three things while your partner is becoming distant, then I'm pretty sure you can make it through it like we were able to do.
Yeah, that goes into kind of like how I process things, and to get us back on track, I started to read a book called The 5 Love Languages. And those are pretty much are words of affirmation, acts of service, quality time, physical touch, and receiving gifts, right? Yep. So those are all the 5 love languages. And so I started to read the book and started to try to process how I can communicate with Devin's love language effectively, so that we will be on a certain type of page to get back to where we needed to be to, and how he could communicate with my love language, right? And so actually diving into that, and we were introduced to the pretty much the exercise through counseling that we had went to, but then I started reading the book, and I actually started to pay close attention to it, because you'll notice your partner will receive certain ways. I don't want to say the love, but they'll receive you more when you cater to their love language, pretty much, right? Their needs. So just realizing that and actually doing that and following those steps, I started to notice the outcome of how things I wanted done started to shift and change to, what I wanted, pretty much. So I was just ask you, out of the 5, what do you feel like is your top 3?
Well,
for you.
Yeah, so we took the test together. So I know what my top 3 are. My first one was words of affirmation. Like I'm just big on that, just like feeling appreciated, because I go out there and I do so much. Like I try to go hard for my family. Like if y'all follow me, man, y'all see all the obstacles that I've been through last decade, and it's just like I just brush them off and I just keep moving forward, because I know I have people depending on me, right? Like I don't have time to make excuses. I can't come home one day and my wife be like, "Oh, why we don't have food in the refrigerator?" And I can't be, "Oh, my daughter went through cancer. I don't play football anymore." Like I can't do that. Like when my kids grow up and they want to know, "Dad, why we don't have this? Why we don't have that?" They're not trying to hear the excuses that I'm going to make for myself. So I go out there and I just continue to fight, because I know that my breakthrough is going to come one day. And why words of affirmation are so important to me is because I just want to know that I'm appreciated, that you notice, what I'm doing for our family, that you notice how I'm trying to fight to provide for y'all. So just, getting text messages here and there, or just hearing a babe, thank you, for everything you're doing. Or like the text you sent me yesterday, just telling me how much you appreciate me, how much you love me, how much you notice how much I'm trying to grind for our family. It just means a lot to get those type of words of affirmation. I think my next one was physical touch. Y'all probably know why it's physical touch already. I like to physically touch my woman. You know what I mean? I like to have fun. And then just quality time, because this world is so crazy. My life is so crazy. Traveling, doing all this stuff, to try to provide. It's hard to try to find quality time together. And I don't want to get caught up in the chaos of the world and forget what's really important, because we already we went through a scare in our life where the time that we had with Leah was unknown. How much time we had left with her was unknown, man. Even if you just look at the story, the tragic story of what happened with Kobe.
Yeah.
It's just like, man, time is everything. Like, it's the one thing that you can't get more of. Like, you can get more of money, you can get more of whatever else you want, but you can't get more time. So just being able to spend quality time with the people I love is extremely important to me because, man, you never know how much you have left.
Yeah. I know for mines, we had pretty much the same top 3, but in different order. So mine was the first one was quality time. And like you said, of course, I know for me personally, I take that very serious because I lost someone close to me. So I value being able to know that life is precious. Life is precious and you never know how long you're going to be on this earth. So if you love somebody, you care about them, you value the time that you have with them because you never know when it's going to be taken away from you. So that's really important to me first and foremost. And then of course, physical touch because I'm affectionate. I'm an affectionate woman. And so I want us to be able to connect and be affectionate with each other because I feel like, you know, that's us getting closer together. And that's just not, it doesn't just pertain to sex. It has to do with you actually hugging him, coming up to me and hugging me or kissing me, you know, just showing me that he loves me and he appreciates me and that he's there, you know, he's mine, so I'm his, you know what I mean? That physical attraction is still there. That's really big. And then, of course, like you said, words of affirmation is a big one as well. And I know for you, it's not really so much of a big deal to me per se, but when he does and the things that he say is very meaningful, especially like one time when you had said that I was doing a great job as a mom. And that was really big to me because I was struggling, y'all. I was going through it. And I had moments where I was breaking down. Oh, my mom's out there know, like, you get tested. Your patience, your mental stability gets tested. And so just hearing that from him was just reassuring me, like, okay, I'm doing great. And he sees it. And I need to just not be so hard on myself. But that meant a lot to me. So just understanding and going through, you can easily go online and print out the worksheet and figure out what your 5 love languages are. But make sure that you do that and communicate it with your partner because I feel like that will help y'all get closer to each other. Mm-hmm. And I just also wanted to give a little example, but like with the acts of services per se, like say if you are a person that likes acts of service, right?
What is acts of service for people who don't know?
So that is pretty much if you are very much a hands-on person, like you need to be able to see that person doing for you pretty much. So if you're cleaning, if you're a person like me where you're always constantly cleaning, if that person, Devin, was to come in and take on a role and say, clean the whole kitchen for me, when he knows that it's something that I do all the time, I'm meticulous about it, I like it to be done, and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna take the load off of her today and clean the kitchen and surprise her. That's the acts of service. So someone just taking the load off of you and doing something for you that you would necessarily do, and them doing it for you.
And then touch on the last one, which is gifts too. So
right, and then the last one is receiving gifts, which, you know, that may be somebody things. Us personally, like we like nice things, but we're not on the type time where we're like, oh, you brought me a gift and that means you love me so much. But some people are like that. So that was the last one, was receiving gifts. But I really think that going through that exercise, especially being introduced to it in counseling, really helped to change our dynamic of how we communicate effectively with each other, and it put us on the path to, you know, going in the right direction and being positive and being able to communicate. So I was happy that we got that done pretty much.
Yeah, definitely. And on top of the 5 love languages, understanding, you know, how you can communicate love with your partner. On top of doing that, there's a couple of other things that you can do to really bring that spark back to your relationship when, you know, you just feel distance. And one of them is just being spontaneous. Mm-hmm. Because when you're with somebody for a long time, like, you get used to doing the same stuff over and over again. It's like, it's not exciting. And if, like, you don't have something that gets you out of bed that you're excited about, more than likely, you know, it's not going to last. Whether you're talking about a career or a relationship, you have to make sure that your relationship is exciting, just like it was when y'all first started dating and you started to get to know each other. Like keep it spontaneous like that. Like get back to the old self that you used to have. And the next one is just be open about your feelings. We talked about it earlier. It's just like communicating some of the feelings that you have towards your partner, some of the issues that you may have, so that you're not harboring those feelings and you actually give them a chance to fix it. Because a lot of times we get mad at our partner for not changing and we don't even know that we're supposed to change,
right?
Because you haven't communicated. So I can't stress y'all, excuse me. I can't stress enough how important this heart box can be to your relationship, because it just allows you to have a way to just get off your heart what's in there, right? So you're not carrying around these feelings that are weighing you down. And the next one is to, reminisce about your relationship. Like if you look at the calendar that we created for February, we have all this stuff inside the calendar because we know how important it is. I think one day we have you guys looking through old photos of each other together, just so you can remember some of the good times, some of the memories that you created with yourself. So you realize why you decided to get into this relationship in the first place.
Right.
Like why you decided to stick with this relationship. So you want to be able to look back at your journey. But the key is not to be stuck in the past, not to keep talking about, well, this is how it used to be. This is what you used to do for me. It's just to bring back the good memories. Because if you also remember episode 1 with our love acronym, the last letter was E, which stands for evolve. Like we're constantly evolving. So understand that things may not be like how it was in the past because we're constantly evolving as individuals and as a couple. So you don't want to be stuck in the past on how things go. But if you practice these things, right? If you practice the love language, you can go and take the test like Asha said, so you can really understand what your love language is, and you can sit down and discuss it with your partner. And these 3 steps that I just gave you right now to add that spark back to your relationship, it can be a game changer. It can literally be a game changer.
Yes. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Y'all took something from it. Until next time, you guys, keep it real.
Yes, sir.